Mary Rabago, now in English, Journalism with the Purpose. Remember, the idea of this show, now in English, we've been doing this for about 4 years now in Spanish, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. here at Facebook Live with Mary Rabago Productions, in Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, and also with our friends at 11:90 a.m. Thank you for that support. We thought it was important to do the crossover so we can unite more organizations, more leaders in our community, and talk about the topics that affect our daily life at home. All families, regardless of their skin color, their background, if they're immigrants, if they've been here for many generations, we have the same needs, wants, and we have the same worries about our economy, our education for our kids, more jobs, the politics spectrum, where is our country heading, and we want to give this platform so you can join in that conversation, so we can hear from our leaders, learn what is going on in their areas, and also how we can unite with them so we can make it better. That is the purpose behind this show, Con Mary Rabago, now in English. And before I introduce my guest today, I'm going to ask you for a big favor. If you're joining us right now, make sure you're going to go ahead and share this link, because our conversation today is going to be more than interesting, and we want to make sure more people it's reach through this Facebook Live, in Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and obviously through our Facebook of Mary Rabago Productions. With that in mind, I want to make sure you're doing as I'm doing right now. Go to your Facebook, guys. Everyone doing that right now?
She's working mine.
I want to make sure. Oh, look at you. You got your assistant and everything.
My glam squad.
We are sharing our link right now. Go ahead and do that. And welcome again. This is Con Mary Rabago, Journalism with a Purpose, now also in English. And I'm very, very honored today to have with me in our studio of Mary Rabago Productions today. He's been hard to get. He's been playing hard to get, but we finally got him. Our representative, Martin Quesada, District 29?
District 29, yes.
And I say Quesada right, because you know when I speak English, sometimes my tongue gets a little twisted, as most of us that have a second language here. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, it's a pleasure to be here.
And next to Senator Quesada, we have Sherry Stagner. She is, how would I present someone that is dedicated for the student development and outreach with Grand Canyon University? They do the student lunch, which when I can make it to those meetings, I am a witness of that amazing work that they're doing with our elementary school students, our high schools, getting them ready for college. So thank you so much for representing Grand Canyon University today and for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And I hope Joe's feeling better today. I'm sure he's watching right now.
I'll tell him you said so.
And I just met her this week, but I mean, her personality, her strength, especially the work that she's doing in our community is very impactful to myself. So I am honored to have her with us today. Is Dr. Ann Hart, from President of NAACP?
Yes.
So I cannot say NAACP. It's
Correct.
NAACP,
That's
correct?
right.
I was
That's
hearing
right.
that in the media today, so I'm like, I gotta get it correct.
That's good.
Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
joining us. Viridiana Hernandez, a dreamer, a leader in the community in so many ways, so many aspects. I had the pleasure of having many conversations, but this is the first one in English, right? So I'm gonna need your help. Thank you so much for joining us. She is represented and she's the leader also of Center for Neighborhood Leadership, correct?
Yes.
And the icing on the cake today is Carl Gentles. He is Public Policy Chair for the Black Chamber here in Arizona, and also a partner with the public relations firm of Good, Right, and Gentles. I said it right? No corrections today. Thank you so much for joining us,
My
Carl.
friend, do you
Well,
want your
these last few hours, not week, they've been difficult for people here in Arizona. You guys represent different areas of our community, different leadership. Each of them get affected with situations like the one we had last night here. We had the President Trump visit, which created a lot of controversial, a lot of situations that we do not want to be involved in. It's not the type of news we want to create out of Arizona. Unfortunately, it seems to be the trend. Viridiana, I'm going to start with you because I know you've been in the forefront of different manifestations, peaceful, but you know, also educating our people in their rights. What is your reaction of what happened here in Phoenix last night?
What happened last night was horrible, right? It was wrong. It should not have happened. It was a peaceful, beautiful protest. People from all walks of life united together from all parts of the community were there in solidarity with each other, supporting each other. All day for 5 hours we were standing in the heat. And then, you know, the police acted in a very violent way towards community. We had moms running with babies on their hands, running away from the gas, crying. We had children, 6-year-old, 10-year-old being gassed in their face. You know, it was a horrible scene. The lack of leadership in our city and by our police department was very evident, but also the violence that is part of the culture within our department. And so we expect an independent investigation of what happened, and we expect for there to be remedies and consequences for everything that happened yesterday. Not everyone made it home. A lot of people went to the hospital. There were some people that were detained. Not everyone made it home safe. So that I wanted to clarify that's what the police department has said, and that's not true.
We are looking at some of the images that Mary Rabago Productions was able to gather through our cameras yesterday in this manifestation, this situation. We know and we heard through the media, the local media, also the Mayor Stanton was asking our president to delay the visit. He was concerned about, you know, the situation that could, you know, develop here in our city. We saw what happened in Charlottesville. Right. Dr. Ann, what is your response to these actions of whether it's the police department, the confrontation, or the agitation that the visit of the president is having in these communities?
Well, number one, after what happened in Charlottesville, I think it was a very inappropriate time and too quick for 45 to even consider coming to Arizona. I think he should have spent more time consoling and being a part of a peace policy meeting with all the residents, community and business and faith organizations in Charlottesville. His timing was completely off. And to have that event that happened in Charlottesville, all it did was catapult to Arizona. So people who think like that are going to want to mirror what happened in Charlottesville. It was inappropriate for him to be here. I still don't know why he was here. He went off script. He didn't stick to his teleprompter. I'm not sure what presidential information that he wanted to share, but it sounded like a high school election or worse, because he didn't do anything to heal. He didn't do anything to bring people together collaboratively, peacefully, spiritually, humanely, any of those things. I wasn't there, nor did I endorse my organization to be there, but I did, on behalf of the Maricopa County branch of the NAACP, I did send a letter to Governor Ducey expressing our disdain to discourage 45 for even landing his Air Force One anywhere in this state. It was the inappropriate time to do so. I didn't think enough healing had taken place on the East Coast. Nevertheless, it was time for him to come out west.
Now, let me jump a little bit to Senator Quesada, because I know Cherry and Carol have two different point of views of this situation. And before I get to you guys, that's the question, the million-dollar question, what Dr. Hart has said. What was the purpose of his visit? I had the show in the morning with a lot of leaders in Spanish. We don't find the purpose. What was it? Coming, given the possible pardon to Cherry Rabago, which it wasn't, you know, a possibility because technicality in the law?
Yeah, I think the purpose of this visit is very clear. The purpose of this visit was to further inflame the divisions that are already present in our community. Had the president really wanted to heal our nation and bring us together, he would have waited after what happened in Charlottesville. He would have allowed us to heal, or he would have taken advantage of the many opportunities he's had up until this point to bring our country together. Instead, he only chose to further cause those divisions. This was a campaign rally for his base and an effort to strengthen the extreme element of his base. So the individuals that were there in support of him, this was all for them. This was not for any of the people of color that were there. This was not for any of the victims of Joe Arpaio's raids and discriminatory behavior. This was all to solidify what is really turning out to be an ugly segment of our society.
Yeah.
Sherry, can you explain to us what the student lunch do or does within the Grand Canyon University, and what is the large population it consists of the students?
Yeah, so the Learning Lounge came about in 2013, and essentially it was established to support students in their academic success And when I say students, it's students in the Grand Canyon neighborhood, which has actually the boundaries of the Grand Canyon neighborhood has expanded as time has gone on, given the number of students we service and the number of schools that we partner with. But essentially, we are there in the interest of students and their academic success and their ability to give them the possibility to do well in school, as well as dream that they can go to college and realize their dreams to go to college. And primarily, the Learning Lounge services a high Spanish population of students, and we also have, I actually just looked at the breakdown yesterday, and it's really not important. What's important is that we have a diverse population of students that we service.
Immigrants from all over the world.
Right.
All over the world. We're proud that all of our leads, our leads are learning advocates, which are our tutors. They represent a wide demographic as well. And so we're able to successfully support all of the kids that come into the Learning Lounge, and we love doing it.
Now, with these type of situations within our community and our country, the education of these kids, all of our kids, but particularly these kids, get affected. What are some of the comments or the fears that they express to you guys there?
So something that's really nice about the university and the environment that we provide is that we're not in the business of politics. We are there to support our students in their needs and to provide them what they need to be successful educationally, and that's where it pretty much ends. So we don't hear the fears, because when they come into the lounge, it's a safe place to be. Everyone is getting what they need, and so it doesn't help much, it doesn't add much to this conversation as far as the controversy, but in a way it does, because it's a nice place for students to go and just study and know that they're going to be supported regardless of what's going on out
It's a safe
elsewhere.
place for them.
Absolutely.
Now, another area of our community that gets very affected with this type of situation is our business community, Carl, that you are representing here today. Speak to us a little bit about the work that the Black Chamber has within our community. And it's not only for people of color to be members of them, it's something that I wanted to make sure our public understands that too.
Sure, well, thanks for having us. So at the Black Chamber, we're all about economic empowerment and opportunity, and working across all lines, political, business, and otherwise, and with quite frankly, a number of the folks here that you have represented, to really push economic empowerment opportunity, especially around entrepreneurism, access to capital, training, and mentorship. So those are really the primary areas that we focus in on. And what we try to do is really provide some leadership on those issues with the state and local officials, and also lend our voice nationally as we can. And so, for instance, this last week, the Business Council, 2 weeks ago now, everything happens so fast, right, with this presidency. But 2 weeks ago, the Economic Council, Manufacturing Council resigned, which is a major issue.
Yes.
A major issue that happened. And it started to unravel because of the first person that resigned was an African-American CEO that runs Merck. And so from there, kind of the dominoes started to fall. And so from our perspective, I mean, here in Arizona, we are about business empowerment. We're trying to build small businesses into large businesses. We're trying to find capital and funding and money to help these businesses grow and thrive. And on a national level, we're hoping to move some advocacy work of our own as well in conjunction with some of the other organizations like the NAACP and others around the table. But we really need to have leadership from not only the national level, but also state level that allows our businesses to grow and prosper. And so the distractions, if you will, that have occurred with Charlottesville and others, it's taken us away from the opportunity and growth in this nation. And so we need to get back to building, a strong nation that includes small businesses and others that you see are represented here. So.
Now, I would like Viridiana and Senator Quesada to speak a little bit more. Here in Arizona, we have seen it, the impact in our pockets. all of our pockets. Let's emphasize on that. It has not been only on the Caucasian pockets, the Latino pocket, you know, the African American. It's all our budgets. They've been affected by SB 1070. We saw that firsthand. What creating this kind of laws, the kind of movements of division. And I keep emphasizing in that because we have the same needs, the same wants. We have the same goals. We need the same things, but we keep focusing on what divides us. What division there is, what divide us, whether it's the color of their skin, our accents, our backgrounds, and we are not working together as a community. We don't have the leadership that we need, not only on the federal level, on the state level, or on our local level, but particular in our own homes. We're so focused, especially in the Latino community, as feeling victimized in many occasions, instead of taking action and see what we can do in our surrounding to start that domino effect for the positive change. What did we learn from SB 1070 that is not being applied here in Arizona still, or in the national level?
Well, yeah, I'll start off. Thank you, Mari. But what we saw with Senate Bill 1070 is that not only were there devastating social impacts, the fears between our communities and law enforcement, the devastating impacts to our schools that took place, but the economic impacts were just hugely detrimental to our society. We lost $141 million in the next year alone just in conferences that chose not to come to Arizona, $253 million in economic output, 9.4 million in tax revenue, and close to 2,800 jobs. And this is according to a report by the Center for American Progress that analyzed the effects of bills like Senate Bill 1070. Unfortunately, across the nation, what we're seeing is there are other states that are empowered by this atmosphere that President Trump has created, and they are starting to copycat bills like Senate Bill 1070. Texas just passed a law called Senate Bill 4 that many have referred to as Senate Bill 1070 on steroids. And I fear that Texas will feel the same economic impact that Arizona did. When you get back to that economic impact that we talked about, our communities, the Latino communities, the African American communities, we are small business owners. That's exactly who we are.
Latinas are heading it, particularly the growth in that, if I may say.
And so we're the ones that are going to feel that impact the most when these things continue to get pushed.
Viridiana, in the family atmosphere, in the community atmosphere, what is the lesson that we're missing that we did not learn or we're not applying from SB 1070 here in Arizona, in our country also?
Well, there's a few things. I think definitely the impact that SB 1070 had was devastating. And what we'd hope is that our leadership currently in our local levels, but also at the state level, remembers what happened then. And when they're making decisions, whether they're going to align with someone like number 45 and the white supremacist views, right? Because we have seen in Arizona how devastating that has been. And so Governor Ducey, but also our local leadership, are going to have to make a decision very soon about where they're going to stand, because those repercussions will come. With that, right, what we have seen the most has been the resiliency of our people really coming together, learning our rights, getting educated, getting empowered. And we have seen every year, a little by little, more people registering to vote, more people coming out to vote. I mean, that has definitely a lesson that we need to continue to reinforce, especially to go local, to elect our local school board members and our local legislators. But that has been huge part of what has happened. Arizona has not only survived, Arizona has thrived, our families have thrived, right? And so I think this is a moment where, unfortunately, like talking a little bit about GCU, I'm a GCU student, we don't get to stay out of politics. We have to take stands. And, right, we have seen, like, even currently in that neighborhood, people being deported from their neighborhood for being around the school, families being in fear. And so we do get to talk to a lot of those families. And it's about reinforcing that we're strong, that we've survived this, and that we're going to continue to fight.
You don't have to wait for me to ask. This is a conversation, and I saw, Carol, that you had something to add after Senator Quesada. This is at home, enjoying a little bit of coffee and a really positive conversation.
You got it. Well, I tell you, Arizona has a brand problem. We have a brand problem across the nation, and I could argue across the globe, because Arizona, when comes up in a conversation, it's always an issue over SB 1070 or Joe Arpaio or or you name it. And so this campaign that the governor has put together called AZ Awesome is supposed to try to break through that negative perception we have across the country.
Why isn't it doing it?
I'm sorry?
Why isn't it doing it?
Well,
That campaign is not serving the
I think
purpose.
it's because you keep having issues come and bite us, like the president coming to town and throwing out the thing about pardoning Joe Arpaio, and that's going to rile people up.
Exactly.
So it seems that we make 2 steps forward and 3 steps backwards, and the senator can talk to some of the bills that were maybe held or not put forward in the last couple of years with that exact issue in mind. Is let's just stay off the front page of the press unless it's going to be positive. And I think that's what we need to do, is find more positive things going on in Arizona, and a lot of positive things going on right here sitting in this room
And that's
that
what
we
we're
could
trying
talk
to
about.
do.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
So.
Dr. Hart, now we have issues with integration. We have in our community, the Latino community, the African American community, we have this fear with authorities. After SB 1070, that relationship that they were, because I was a witness of that 20 years in the media, I definitely saw the stress, the effort that the Phoenix Department, the Phoenix Police Department actually put in reaching out to our community. That law came and broke a lot of that relationship. The same thing has been happening not only in Arizona, but across the board in our country between the relationship of law enforcement and African American community. That keeps growing, the fear, the brokenness in those relationships. What can we do as leaders in the community to change that? What is it that proposed? I don't want to only talk about the issues and the problems. I want to look at solutions in this conversation.
You know, I think that what's important in every topic that we've spoken about so far, our leaders have to come more to the forefront. And I have a problem when we have elected officials that only want to be in front of the camera or a soundbite, but they're not backing up their message with executing anything that's going to bring us together. Because we have to spend more time electing people and recognize that the ones that are in leadership positions, what are they doing? Because after we put that check in the ballot box and we write a campaign check for them, we don't see them again for 11 months later. That's the first thing. Number 2, I would like to see, we have a lot of women that are stepping up to the plate. Like you said earlier, an entrepreneur, Latino women are doing fabulous. African American women are doing fabulous. My glam squad here who accompanied me here. We have entrepreneur women here. We need more men to join women. Women are not trying to stand alone in this fight for equality, but we can't seem to find any men that want to come on board with us. And when we do step out to do something, to become leaders and take our position because we're the ones who stepped up to the plate, sometimes we get ostracized because we're women. We're not going to sit in a house and spread jelly on toast and make grits and fried chicken. We're going to be out there in the streets, but we need the men to join forces too and stop sitting back criticizing us. And number 3, watch and be prepared for the midterm election, because Senator here, you're doing your part out in West Valley. Awesome, minority or majority whip, I'm not sure which one, but we need to have more politicians step up to the plate. Everybody wants to have their palms greased, but nobody wants to do the work. And stop electing people that only want camera time, that are not going to do the work.
I think we have seen that. And before we go to Sherry, Anthony Perez is joining us today. We have a lot of people joining. Thank you so much. Do not forget to share this link, to write a comment or a question for our guests. We want you joining in this conversation. This is an effort to look for solutions, to make a difference in our community. But it's not only in the hands of our leadership that we have here as guests today. You play a big part in that, and that's what we're trying to do. This is Journalism with a Purpose. Con Mary Rabago now in English. We have, that's fine, yes, you know, the volume on the side, and that happens all the time with that. So we also have Lupita Poblete says, I love your program. I feel comfortable with the words. Well, thank you so much for your comment. Anthony Carranza, best way to promote economic progress and create jobs is creating the incentive of business growth. Huge real estate opportunities in Arizona for corporate and small business. Thank you for your comment. And then we have Tomas Robles Jr. Hi, Tomas. Thank you for joining us. Ducey hasn't done anything awesome for Arizona. Hypocrisy. That is his comment right now to us. Thank you so much for doing Dimitri Trelli. Love the English segments. Thank you so much. Make sure you had shared this link so more people can join that conversation. So everything we've been talking so far, Sherry, affects the quality, the progress in education of our kids. Our kids are the future. We saw it in Proposition 300, how it hindered a lot of dreamers. Grand Canyon University was one of the leaders in education that said we embrace those kids. That's the future of our economy. We are going to invest in them. But it's still a lot to be done when it comes to education and in our community here in Arizona.
It's true. There is still a lot to be done, but I do think that we are focused on the right things. And I think with any kind of change initiative, it's just going to take some time for some of the changes to take effect. I know at Grand Canyon, that's something that we're intent on doing, is supporting our community, growing the community, giving people in the community jobs at the university, providing scholarships for students to attend the university. Also, I know that we have increased our own police force at the university so that those who are on the university campus feel safe, as well as those who live in the neighborhood, because their safety is important to us. So all things moving in a positive direction. It's just going to take some time, and I think what we can do to undo the fear, going back to that question, is just that. We need to have some positive experiences with these people in leadership, these people in law enforcement, and so forth. That's usually what does undo fear, is a positive experience or positive experiences with things that have been negative in the past.
Well, we're going to do a small break. We'll be right back with your comments and your questions. And I would love to leave you guys with this question. How can we break the division? How can we jump the fence of the division within our community? You guys are well represented here. You know, we have the Caucasian, we have African American, the Latino. How can we change that in Arizona so all communities work together instead of keep, growing that division, that situation? We have 18 hate groups present in Arizona. That should, shake us in many aspects, in many ways, should concern us and unite us in many aspects. So we're going to go to a small break. We'll be right back. This is Journalism with a Purpose con Mary Rabago, now also in English.
My friend, do you want your children to fly as high as the eagles? With education, everything is possible. That is why Imagine Elementary College is the best option in the area. They provide the tools necessary to make sure your children are successful. Free transportation. Your children deserve the best, and that starts with a solid education. They provide classes that practice STEM, music, and sports. That is why I, Mary Rabago, recommend Imagine Elementary College, a free charter school. Call today, 520-723-5391, 520-723-5391. The basis of success is a good education for our children. That is why Imagine Prep College prepares them to succeed in the fields of greater demand in our economy, like science, technology, and engineering. With advanced academic instruction, choose Imagine Prep College for your children. Give them the best gift you could give them, a quality education for free. Call today, 520-424-2790, 520-424-2790. I, Mary Rabago, recommend it. My friend, do you want your children to fly as high as the eagles? With education, everything is possible. My friend, do you want your children to fly as high as the eagles? With education, everything is possible. That is why Imagine Elementary College is the best option in the area. They provide the tools necessary to make sure your children are successful. Free transportation. Your children deserve the best, and that starts with a solid education. They provide classes that practice STEM, music, and sports. That is why I, Mary Rabago, recommend Imagine Elementary College, a free charter school. Call today, 520 520-723-5391. 520-723-5391.
It has been a wonderful experience. I think that having the right level of information at all times to understand how together we can do a better job is great. You guys are great partners, and you took the time to understand why the campaign was important.
Is engage the community, so it becomes a conversation. It becomes a community project. When you call people together, thousands of people will come. There's no other agency can do that.
Mary's viewers are very loyal, very dedicated people to her, and so they trust her.
Mary Rabago Productions was much more timely, and the quality of the product when it was all said and done was fantastic.
We really do need a production company that understands not only the language, the culture, but has the professionalism.
We would support Mary Rabago's production in a professional manner. We know the quality, we know she is professional, and she has a team of people that are caring and very sensitive to the Latino issues in the United States.
Con Mary Rabago now in English. This is Journalism with a Purpose, and we're having a great conversation with leaders in our community, starting with Carl Dentos. He is with the Black Chamber of Arizona. We have Viridiana Hernandez with Center for Neighborhood Leadership, Dr. Ann Hart from President of NAACP. We have Sherry Stagner with Grand Canyon University, and Senator Martin Quesada. So the topic is the recent visit with our president here to the Valley, the situation that we have seen, through the mainstream media, but particular the topic today, as I mentioned, what can we do to cross those fences that we have, those invisible fences within our communities, the Latino, the African American, the Caucasian, the Asian community, particularly here in Arizona. I think all of us are tired. We had talked about it's between 70, the history within our state. What can we do to change that perspective, to start being the ground zero for positive change? And it starts in the pocket when it comes to economic development in our business, Carl.
Sure. Well, we might consider doing some things together between organizations, and I've been a big proponent of that for many years, where we try to build collaborative relationships. So, for instance, one of the greatest ways to attack all of these issues is economically, and so the stronger we become economically.
Everybody hears the pocket, right?
Absolutely. The stronger we become economically, the stronger we become politically, the stronger we have an opportunity to change some things. And so there's some great opportunity for collaboration between the Black Chamber of Arizona and CPLC, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, et cetera, NAACP, and on and on. And so I wanted to just loop back for just a second on something that Ann talked about before the break, and she was talking about leadership and the need for leaders. And hats off to Senator Quesada, who's done an amazing job in the minority down at the legislature, and that is a lonely place to be in the minority down there, especially in the Republican-controlled House and Senate that we have. And so what I think we need to do, because there's a few more Latinos down at the legislature than there are African Americans, as you know. About
time, right? We grew a little bit, but not in power.
A little bit, but it's getting there. And so right now on the African American, for African American representation, Reginald Bolden is there, and we just had a new representative appointed for, I think it's LD4, yes. Which is fantastic, so it's a start. But what that tells us is that we've got to find more leadership. And to Ann's point, that it can't just come from, as she says, the women of our household or in our business to get up and do something. And so I think we need to really start there with building some bench strength, number one, finding good people, finding good people first, and people that want to make a difference and have some change. And then building them into leaders. Build them into leaders with the support of the business community, because they're going to win with the support of the business community and with the support of people around this state. And so we just need to cultivate and grow a new generation of leaders. On the African American side, for sure, because you see we've diminished in terms of representation at the legislature, city council, on and above, and nothing, of course, higher than that. And so there's a lot of work to do, and I think around this table here, we probably could put together 2 or 3 people that we can name by name that we think are ready to go today to help affect some change.
And they have to be leaders that they don't look good in paper, but they are actually walking the talk.
Yes,
correct? That's the kind of leadership we need, and we gotta say it con las palabras que son, como son, right? Without sugarcoating it. We have James Garcia. Arizona stood strong, delivering the message that we will not be moved from the path to justice and equality. Who can comment in that regards? Did we do enough in Arizona? Have we done enough?
I don't think we scraped the surface, because I think we crawl out of our hole and we stop. Because when a few of us get elected or get nominated and we're in the position, we celebrate that. And then when those leaders look back, there's no one behind you. And so we have to continue, when you reach down to bring someone up, we don't know if we're bringing someone up who's going to support or if that person's grabbing on to bring you down. That's the challenge in the city. And because we are small in population, African Americans, you know, we get the crumbs, but we have to learn as African Americans, learn how to take the crumb and build it into a loaf. And take that loaf and make slices where everybody can benefit from it. Because the need for hunger that creates a challenge that diminishes our opportunity for growth, economic development, educational prosperity, social development, health and wellness, and all that's going to create a harmonious, strong society, is we have to make sure that every person on that ladder, amongst the parallel and latitudinal and longitudinal, have a piece and a role to play. And that also means diversity. We tend to work in silos, okay?
Yes.
Latinos are my cousins, my brothers and my sisters in some instances. For me personally, I come from the Rainbow Coalition. I have a little bit of this and that and the other. But when people see me perceptually, they see an African American woman, oh, she's only concerned about black issues. She wears a natural. She's only concerned about being in the hood. This is not true at all. We have to stop looking at what's on the outside and focus what's on the inside. And the only way you're going to do that is have these conversations. That's one of the reasons why I appreciate you inviting me to your program, which is outstanding. I've gotten a chance to meet people here on the couch I've never met before. You and I have worked together a lot in past circumstances, situations, but we need to execute. We talk, we implement, we don't execute. And I think that's where we need to do next. How we do it is where this conversation can continue.
Now, you may have an excuse for the numbers of the African American population, but I asked Viridiana and Senator Quesada, what's our excuse?
Yeah.
I mean, it's no good, and I know my people, you're probably tired of hearing me say constantly this, it's no good for us, the Latinos, to be the biggest or the largest minority within the country if we don't have that power, economic and education, and definitely not in politics. So what's going on with us? I'm tired of hearing el gigante dormido. We're not there anymore, so, but we're still not where we need to be.
Correct. Yeah, I agree. I don't think we're anywhere close to doing what needs to get done in order to advance ourselves as a people, not only as Latinos, but as African Americans and as immigrants and even people of just lower socioeconomic status. There's a lot that needs to be done. And until we can look at our educational systems and say that every child is getting the opportunity to get a quality education, until we look at our criminal justice system and we can say that every individual is going to get treated fairly in the same way in that justice system, and we're not going to be over-incarcerating people of color for crimes that they shouldn't have been policed for in the first place. Until we're able to address each and every one of those issues and say that we've accomplished that, we haven't done enough yet. My frustration being as an elected official for the last 7 years now, as I've seen that far too often, I think historically we, as people of color, we've come to an understanding that we're only going to get so much, and we only accept that much once we get it, and once we get it, we fight hard to hold on to it rather than trying to find more. And that unfortunately devolves.
Tradition and culture that we need to change.
Yes, and it devolves sometimes into fighting amongst each other more than working together with each other. And I think if we do that, if we build those coalitions, if we support each other, we agree to disagree, we help each other survive, we can do even better than we've done already.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with something that you mentioned, Dr. Hart, which is they have us fighting for crumbs, right? There are a lot of systems in place that have us fighting for crumbs. There are definitely many things that us as brown communities and Latinx communities are starting to do more than ever before, which, anti-Blackness is real in our community. Homophobia is real in our community. And so we're starting to address those issues within our own community to be able to continue to build coalitions and strength. I think this is a very politically, it's a critical time and very urgent time to decide whether we're going to build power together or not. Because as you mentioned, we're going to be the majority very soon. And we need to see where we're going to be. And I think many things, it's not on our people. Yes, our people have been slowly coming out to vote and it has been growing, but we also need to look at the racism behind a lot of these systems, right? We used to be able to help people vote by helping them collect their ballots and take it to the mailbox. They made that a criminal act now. That's a felony in Arizona, and that was done last year. People of color, Black and brown, are 70% of people that are incarcerated. Arizona is 98% in public education, and it's not a coincidence that that has happened as minority communities have been now the majority in public education system. So as much as we are constantly fighting, that's what it is. Sometimes we're fighting to survive when electeds and leadership who do have white supremacist views or maybe they are biases are doing these decisions that are keeping our communities down. So we definitely need to build power together, and we need to take over some of those.
And definitely education is where the key is. Definitely you would agree with us, Sherry, on that. I keep mentioning it. This is the purpose behind this journalism with the purpose that we do con Mary Rabago. Educate, inform, but particularly empower the community. When I say the community, I'm not only talking about the Latino community. It is time for us to see us as a community as a whole. And in education is where the strength is. We got to change those traditions. I mean, hate is learned within generations. Our traditions as Latinos or African American, we have so much richness that we bring to this country, but there's some negative things also where we don't believe we are good enough or we can do more than that. And through education, we're breaking those barriers, but that's where we need to focus right now.
I agree. I think education, has the potential to change a lot I think what comes to mind is a couple of different avenues. One, of course, with opportunity, the opportunity that it provides. But I also think that education is what is required to broaden perspective. And if everyone has spoken about how a lot of times any kind of initiative is done in isolation, and there is, I would argue, that there's a lot of misunderstanding and a lack of understanding, and I think that education is something that can remedy that. I also think having the willingness to have open conversations with each other is another thing that can help start breaking down those fences that seem to divide us at times.
And that's particular what I was emphasizing yesterday in an interview with KTAR. And I put an example that how quick would be if I am not all made up like you see me like this. If I just have with a typical button t-shirt and I'm driving, I am more likely to be stopped and questioned about my legal status here because I'm short, because I'm dark. We joke a lot with my fiancé Jarvis Berry. We were crossing the border and I'm like, they would not even ask me for my documents, African American next to me. And it's like, those situations that I'm sure a lot of our people can share those experience with it. My sister, she's blonde, but she's Mexican. She has a thicker accent than I do. She doesn't get stopped or questioned, but look at me, because of our appearance, we're still with that kind of situation where we were raised in that way. There is also racial discrimination between African Americans and Latino, not only from white to black or white to brown or yellow. There is a prejudice within our community. How do we eradicate that, particular in the way if we touch the budgets, the pockets of everyone? That's a language everybody understands.
Well, clearly education is a real big part of that, and African Americans have the same issues. We're stopped driving while black all the time, right? And, so, and quite frankly, I mean, people look at somebody like myself, they wouldn't think I'm an immigrant, but I was a naturalized U.S. citizen back in 1974. And so we have the same common issues. We have a lot of immigrant black and Africans here in Arizona, and so yeah, education is absolutely key. I mean, quite frankly, we need education around how to handle yourself when you're stopped, and continue that education. We need to drive that down into our young adults so that they don't get into the issues when they're stopped, and et cetera. So education is absolutely key on that side. Education is also important on the business side, because in order to grow from a small business to a large business, you've got to educate yourself. And that's what we try to do at the Black Chamber of Arizona through programs like our Capital Pathways in Action that will take place next in September, and the Women's Collaborative that's going to happen in October. And so we really want to make sure that our small business owners are educated about how you grow that seed of an idea into a large enterprise. How do you become the next Google? How do you become the next big company out of Arizona? So hats off to Grand Canyon, who, by the way, is doing a great job with their entrepreneurial education over there. And they're spinning off, I think, 12 companies a year out of Grand Canyon itself that are run by students. And so the more kind of great ideas like that we can have, the better we're going to be.
Well, we're going to go to a small break. We'll come back with this conversation. We'll hear a little bit from each of you in telling us exactly what you're doing, the organizations you represent, but how your work, your daily work, is changing our community, and how we can join ventures with you guys, okay? This is con Mary Rabago, Periodismo con Propósito, Journalism with a Purpose, now also in English. We'll be right back.
It has been a wonderful experience. I think that having the right level of information at all times to understand how together we can do a better job is great. You guys are great partners, and you took the time to understand why the campaign was important.
Is engage the community, so it becomes a conversation. It becomes a community project. When you call people together, thousands of people will come. There's no other agency can do that.
Mary's viewers are very loyal, very dedicated people to her, and so they trust her.
Mary Rabago Productions was much more timely, and the quality of the product when it was all said and done was fantastic.
We really do need a production company that understands not only the language, the culture, but has the professionalism.
We would support Mary Rabago's production in a professional manner. We know the quality, we know she is professional, and she has a team of people that are caring and very sensitive to the Latino issues in the United States.
The basis of success is a good education for our children. That is why Imagine Prep College prepares them to succeed in the fields of greater demand in our economy, like science, technology, and engineering. With advanced academic instruction, choose Imagine Prep College for your children. Give them the best gift you could give them, a quality education for free. Call today, 520-424-2790. 520-424-2790. I, Mary Rabago, recommended.
Thank you so much for continuing. This is our last segment. It's been more than an interesting conversation. I hope you are enjoying it as much as we are. I hope you're learning And also, you're creating ideas and ways of how you can join this movement also and creating a change within our community. We unfortunately cannot rely on the local leaders and the federal, state level leaders to make that change. It is time for us as a community, from the different spectrum and areas that are represented here, from community leadership, from the business community, from the rights community education, and also our state representatives also, to do a change. With that in mind, I want to thank everyone that is joining us tonight through Facebook Live, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Do not forget to share this link. With this conversation, the goal is to get extended to your home, to your work areas, you know, your churches, your neighborhoods, in order to create that change. I would like to hear from each of you what exactly you're doing in that purpose of creating the change in our community. And I know it's a lonely place to be in the minority in the state legislature right now.
It is.
As Carol mentioned it.
It's a very lonely place to be when you are in the minority. But what I can say is that the work that we have done as a state, all the great work that these individuals here have done, have actually made great progress in the state of Arizona. We've had more people of color elected every single year in the legislature. We now have one of the largest caucuses in the entire United States of America. Now the struggle becomes getting us to unite and work together rather than fight against each other, and that's a tough proposition sometimes. But that's something that I'm working on very, very hard in my role as a state senator in the Democratic minority. But I also serve as a school board member, and this gets back to a point that was mentioned by our friend from the Black Chamber. The future of our workforce is going to be people of color. The kids in our K-12 education system right now are majority Latino. We always talk about when Latinos are going to become the majority of the regular population. We are already the majority in our K-12 schools. So now the focus needs to be to make sure, and this helps all of us. It doesn't just help Latinos. It helps our African Americans. It helps our Anglos. It helps everybody in our community if our Latino students are going to be successful. So we need to focus. That's one of the things I'm working on as a legislator and a school board member, is helping to make sure that those kids are going to be successful.
In other words, invest in our Latino kids, which already Grand Canyon University is doing.
We do. And, you know, I already mentioned what Grand Canyon has to offer as far as how we support the kids in our community. One of the things that we also have done over the last couple of years has awarded full tuition scholarships to, at this point, 194 students who attend school in the Grand Canyon community. So this goes back to our conversation about education. We are getting kids into college. These are very, very bright young individuals, and we're getting them into college so that hopefully someday they can go into leadership roles, into politics, that sort of thing, and have an influence on the things that are happening in the community. By and large, the students that have been awarded our scholarship, the Students Inspiring Student Scholarship, they most of the time say what they want is to give back to the community. They want to stay in the community. They want to help the community grow, thrive, and develop. So these are individuals who are invested in their community and want nothing more than to have an education so that they can make a difference in their community, for their families, for their siblings. So that's what we're doing. We're also, with that, we have a great number of our scholarship recipients are first generation college students. So with that comes a handful of challenges. A lot of time, I mean, the national statistic rather, is about 60% of the kids make it. And this year we had our first round of students that we awarded the scholarship, our first 100. We're at 80% success rate. So we're learning from these students. What are their needs? How can we better serve and help them so that next year it's 100%? And so we're paying attention to these kids. We are deeply invested in their success and the success of the community. So that's what we're doing.
And you're breaking the cycle of poverty.
That's
so thank you for doing that. Before we go with Dr. Hart, Angela Garrett, great job. You touched a lot of the issues, including racism against the Latino and African American communities, against each other. What can we do?
what we need to do is to understand that everyone is going to be a high achiever. We need to make sure that the A and B students, the high scholarship students, they're going to make it. We have to make sure we reach that population of students who are being raised by grandparents, whose parents are incarcerated. We have a lot of young people that are, you know, homeless, and they are products of migrated families, and they're living in centers and shelters and et cetera. We forget about that population of students who don't have that extra hand. And that's a very serious population, especially that foster care population, because the overachievers are going to get theirs. And I think that one thing that our leaders, I would like to see us do, is that we have to enforce and instill civic engagement in our young people.
Exactly.
Because if they don't learn as a young person, you don't throw trash out the window, pick it up. You know, help to make, you talk about economic development, they're not going to get there if they don't know what civic engagement is. And more importantly, when we talk about school board members and politicians, and a lot of people tend to think that they just want to jump out there and become a senator or a representative, you should start at the school board. Because that's the pathway to it. That's where the education begins. And the one thing that I am most passionate about, most concerned about is let's elect school board members who are going to execute things that are going to help our children grow resourcefully and financially. Stop spending unnecessary money recruiting teachers that don't live in Arizona. We have educators in this state. Help these teachers who are not certified, help them pass this test. This Arizona certification test is very difficult. It was changed several years ago. I won't talk about under which administration, but it needs to help our Latino, our African American teachers get into the school system so they can be the role models to help our children grow. And don't think that every teacher there is helping our children grow. We need to go in that classroom, and if you're not cutting the mustard, and I'm not talking about just, you don't manage by intimidation.
Exactly.
You help our students learn and feel valued. You teach and work and nurture with our young people. We have children in kindergarten, preschool being dismissed for the half of the school year because they bought a symbol of a gun at the end of a keychain that's a toy. This is ridiculous. We need to put social workers back in the school, full-time psychologists, and we need to make sure that our crises intervention teams are working successfully to help our students grow. The educational system is broken here. Everyone is inside the system. Stop putting administrators on these payrolls where they're just getting paid. Some of these people need to go into retirement now and let the younger generation in who can work. These Gen X's and these millenniums can work better with these students, and that's what's lacking from the school system. So civic engagement, get on the school board, and help to get our teachers on board to work with our students and get rid of the teachers that are not effective.
Thank you, Dr. Hart. Viridiana, how do we change the mentality of the suppressed?
Yeah, I think for, you know, we have to remember that we are powerful, that the power is already within us, that we are inherently very resilient and powerful people that have survived oppression for decades, you know, centuries. And so I think it is a lot of healing that needs to happen, a lot of healing that we are continuing to do, and then, you know, like Dr. Hart mentioned, that needs to be invested in. Like, we have been fighting for so long, and children are being hurt and being kicked out of school, and there's all these things happening. There needs to be an investment in our healing. There needs to be an investment in our mental health and our state and how we're doing. But overall, you know, there's continuing conversations about how powerful our communities are, and to mend with each other, right? And with across communities, we are starting conversations, and I do look forward to talking to, you know, people from different communities and different spectrums of the work, because there are hard conversations that need to happen.
Yes.
And they need to happen. Otherwise, we're just going to continue going and talking, but talk is cheap.
Right.
And then was something that I think continues to root us at CNL, right, where we work on leadership development and we work to develop young people and Spanish-speaking undocumented moms in Maryville, is to listen to the voices of the people that are most affected. Because maybe we're no longer connected, you know, if we've been far removed for too long. But if we're not willing to hear the truth and to hear the experiences of people most affected living in the margins, then we're not going to create a better Arizona for everyone. Because once the people that are most hurt and most vulnerable succeed, then we all very much succeed.
Wonderful. I want to ask Carol, first of all, what you have heard from our other guests today, how does that apply to the Black Chamber and their leadership? And also, I would love to start with you and come back this way. What have you learned from this conversation, and what can you take back to your organization to make a difference?
Well, first I've learned, but effectively already knew that we've got some great leadership at the table here, number one. Number two, that there are, and I think we've all said it in one way, shape, or form or other, that there are some systemic challenges that are institutional in nature, that have been going on for many, many years. And a lot of that is rooted in education, a lot of it is rooted in leadership, a lot of it is rooted in real social issues that we need to get a handle on. On the Black Chamber's side, we are looking to try and again build economic power through entrepreneurship. And that's really what we're about. And I think that, at least from the economic standpoint, reaching as far down into communities as we can and helping people up with the smallest of loans to build on something small and make it bigger. So many of the things that we are trying to accomplish all center around education, all center around
that's a common denominator in our conversation
business
today.
education, the education of our children. We're educating our entrepreneurs, and so we're educating them on how to find, have access to capital, or educating them on how to become certified as a minority small business, a small business enterprise, and where to find and how to attract business mentors that are going to help them grow and thrive their businesses as well. And so, I mean, for us, and we hope this spreads across the community, we're hoping to try and build that kind of education across the platforms here, across into relationships that we have at the Hispanic Chamber and other places. And I just hope that we can all leave from here and say, I heard something good. Let me pick up the phone and call this person and see what we can do together, because I think together we're going to be very powerful.
Thank you so much, Carol. Viridiana, what are you taking back from this conversation?
I think definitely the need for the collaboration across, multiple sectors and multiple communities, and also the commitment to make sure that we are growing our power as communities that are united, as communities of color, as communities that are affected by all these different things and these different issues. Definitely, again, that there's a lot of things that are systemic. And at CNL we're committed to increasing the civic engagement, which goes beyond voting, right? It goes to what's happening in the schools, what are the policies that are in place, what is happening with the Phoenix Police Department, what is happening and how our community is being deported and arrested. And so we are committed to that. And so right now, actually, after this, I have a staff meeting. So we're going back and talking about what are some of the training, right, that we've been talking about. How are we going to train and have a conversation about anti-Blackness with our brown communities, and making sure that is a priority, right? That is part of what needs to happen. Not only education in the education system, but educating ourselves on social responsibility, on what that is, and what does it mean to be committed to civic engagement all around.
Thank you, Dr. Hart.
I just want to speak to the piece that is important that represents the fabric of Arizona, Maricopa County, this entire state, is we have our Latina population and our African American population and other ethnic groups here. We have to really, really work hard. As you said, this is our base. We have to break down these silos, because I'm tired of conversations. Not this one. Not this one.
I want this to go in action. That's why I'm asking, what will you
because we talk, and then after we leave, we take off our mics, we go back, and we have to make it work. We have to, and this is very, very important, because we have to stop thinking that the perception is the reality. And we have to dig deeper into that. I'm very concerned that our leaders, and when I talk about leaders, I'm not just talking about elected officials, I'm talking about the ones that are hired into positions, starting from elementary school, so that our young people can have an opportunity to experience, but someone has to model that. And we have to come out of our black chambers and our school boards and our corporate America and our banks and come in the community and work with people. And I want to say lastly that the NAACP, we do hold workshops once a month by Noble, the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement, in our office that you came to visit not too long ago on 25th Street and Martin Luther King Boulevard. We have monthly workshop on how to engage when you're stopped by the police. It's for everyone. And we also hold monthly workshops on how to advocate on behalf of your children in school. Because the reason why these children are being disenfranchised is because parents are afraid and frightened. Schools don't do a good job inviting friendly conversations so that they intimidate rather than embrace. So we have those workshops monthly. So just know that something is happening in the South Phoenix community that can engage and encourage parents and students and business people to work together with our young people. Carl Jennels, you can come and do some volunteer workshops with our community. Just let us know. We'll post it, advertise it, and have you there. Now, we're not looking for big crowds of people. We just want to have people come, 10 or 15 or 20. It's better to educate and reach one, teach one, and have faith in the process.
Love it. Thank you so much. Sherry, you guys are doing an amazing job already at Grand Canyon University. What are you taking back from this conversation, and what will you do with that?
I think, for the most part, I'm taking back more perspective, and it will absolutely inform the work that I do in the Learning Lounge. I appreciate having gained, the insight of the different positions areas that are represented here today. I also think that for me, it's more personal. I will say this, I'm not representing Grand Canyon at this point. For me, I feel as an educator, in my heart and soul, that's how I started. I will finish out my career as an educator. I'm on a different trajectory at this point in time, but I do feel like there are things that I can do. That's right, as an individual, to have an influence on the things that are happening or not happening at the site, at the school level. And so it inspires me to do something.
Thank you so much. Okay, Senator Quesada, final. Come on, make it worthwhile.
Yeah, no, well, first of all, thank you. I feel really privileged to be sitting here with, 4 great leaders in our community. And I think one of the things I'm taking away is a realization that, our problems in our society are very complex. And there are 2 types of problems. There are technical problems and there are adaptive problems. And in order to address the adaptive problems, those require us to break down those silos, to work together, to sacrifice sometimes some of the things that we want in order to come to a solution that works for everyone. When we treat those adaptive problems as technical problems, we assume we have all the answers and there's a solution already waiting there that we just have to find it. But the solutions aren't already set in stone. We have to create them. And in order to create them, you can only create a good product if you are working in collaboration with others. I'm proud that we've done that in my school district. We broke down those barriers between the faith community, with the business community, with our mothers, our monolingual Spanish-speaking mothers who live in our community. We were able to create a good public education system for our kids. If we can do that on a small scale there, I have faith that we can do that on a larger scale as well in Arizona.
Well, thank you to each one of you for being here with us, cada uno de ustedes. It's been an honor to sustain this conversation. And again, we ask to please, will you continue this kind of conversation in your household, in your place of work, worship, in your community? We want to create a change. That's the journalism with a purpose. And the beauty of being independent, because we're past 6 o'clock. So thank you so much for your patience today, for joining us. This is con Mary Rabago, Journalism with a Purpose. Thank you again. Don't forget to share the link. And please, let's go and make some change in our community. Appreciate it. Thank you. Hasta la próxima.
Thank you. That was